10 Rules About Monsters, written by Lynn Yvonne Moon, illustrated by Tracey, Arvidson. When I go to my grandma's house, there are rules I must follow, such as, I'm not allowed to write on the walls. I have to eat my dinner. I have to pick up my toys. I'm not afraid to stay at my grandma's house anymore because she said monsters have to follow rules too. I used to be scared to stay at my grandma's house. The bedroom was big and dark and scary. I cried for Mommy and Daddy. Grandma asked me why I was afraid. Monsters! I do not like monsters! But Grandma laughed and said, Silly you! You never have to be afraid if you know the 10 rules about monsters. Rule number 1 says that monsters are not allowed at Grandma's house. When you are at Grandma's house, you never have to be afraid because monsters are just not allowed at Grandma's house. How do I know this is true? Because Grandma and I checked out the whole house and there were no monsters anywhere. I got to thinking about monsters, so I asked her, Grandma, what about when I'm at home? Monsters hide in my closet. Oh, no, my grandma said, because rule number 2 takes care of that. Monsters are not allowed to hide in closets. You see, monsters are big and do not fit very easily into a closet. If they did, they might get tangled in the hangers. They would not be very scary with a hanger stuck on their head, so monsters are not allowed to hide in closets. What about when I go to sleep? They can get me from under my bed. Oh, no, Grandma said, because rule number 3 takes care of that. Monsters are not allowed under beds. When a monster goes under a bed, they always fall asleep. They make so much noise, snoring, they wake everybody up. Then a mommy or daddy chases them away. So that is why monsters are not allowed under the bed. But Grandma, what about the basement? I know there is a monster in the washing machine. There has to be a monster in it. Oh, no, my grandma said, because rule number 4 takes care of that. Monsters are not allowed to hide in washing machines. Monsters are really hairy. If they hide inside a washing machine, their fur soaks up all the water. After they twirl and twirl in the spin cycle, they get dizzy. When they climb out, they fall down. Monsters are not very scary if they're on the ground, so that is why monsters are not allowed to hide in washing machines. Grandma, what about the bathroom? There has to be a monster hiding in there. Oh, no, my grandma said. Rules number 5 and number 6 take care of that. Monsters are not allowed to brush their teeth or take a bath. A monster must be very stinky and dirty. If a monster was to hide in a bathroom, they just might leave all cleaned up. Monsters would not be very scary if they were all fresh and pretty. So that is why monsters are not allowed in bathrooms. Grandma, what else are monsters not allowed to do? Oh, that is easy, my grandma said. Rule number 7 covers monsters hiding in attics. Monsters are really heavy, and if they walked in an attic, their big feet would crash right through the ceiling. So it was decided that monsters would never be allowed to hide in an attic. Oh, Grandma, I almost forgot. The vacuum cleaner is very loud and scary. There has to be a monster in there. It eats everything off the floor. It will eat me too. Oh, no, my grandma said. Rule number 8 takes care of that. Monsters are not allowed to hide in a vacuum cleaner. If a monster tried to hide in a vacuum cleaner, its tail would get caught. Then the monster would walk around with a vacuum cleaner stuck to its butt. And a monster would not be very scary walking around with a vacuum cleaner stuck to its butt. So monsters are not allowed to hide in a vacuum cleaner. Grandma, what about in the dark? My bedroom is dark at night, and my pajamas are in there. I am too scared to turn on the light. A monster might grab me. Oh, no, my grandma said. Rule number 9 takes care of that. Monsters are not allowed to hide in dark rooms. When a monster goes into a dark room, it cannot see. If the monster cannot see, it might trip over toys and make noise. It might even fall out a window or run into a wall. That would not be a very scary monster. So monsters are not allowed to hide in dark rooms. But Grandma, what about the kitchen? What about the backyard? What about... That was when my grandma told me the most powerful rule of all. Rule number 10. Monsters are not allowed to scare grandchildren. A long time ago, my grandma said, all the grandmothers in the world created these rules. Because there are so many places for a monster to hide, they decided that monsters should not be allowed to scare grandchildren. Then what do monsters do, Grandma? Well, my grandma said, they spend the night with their grandmas and worry about you jumping out of their closet to scare them. That is silly, Grandma. I do not hide in closets to scare monsters. And they do not hide to scare you.